The question that needs to be answered in this topic is why Churchill was out of office from 1929 to 1939. The overarching reason for this can be explained by three factors. The first is Churchill's political isolation, far removed from moderate conservative opinion and increasingly viewed as an outsider and eccentric. The second is his public image. Seen as old-fashioned in his rhetoric, as it was an age of radio and cinema, he seemed representative of a long-gone imperial age. And the third is circumstance. During this period, Britain was dealing with the aftermath of the Wall Street crash and the economic problems that this caused, and therefore the country needed a leader who would bring stability, not the uncertainty that Churchill had shown when he returned to the gold standard in 1925, only for Britain to have to leave it in 1931. These three factors, Churchill's political isolation, his old-fashioned public image, and his inability to portray stability, are exemplified in his response to four key issues over this period, which ultimately left him out of office and in the political wilderness. The four problems that Britain faced during this period were the question of Indian independence and how this was to be dealt with, the abdication crisis, British rearmament and appeasement. The first two will be covered in this video. In both the issue of Indian independence and the abdication crisis, it is helpful to separate the popular views, the political views, and Churchill's views, in order to effectively compare the three and make the case that Churchill was out of office because of his outdated and out-of-touch views. In terms of Indian independence, the majority popular view was pro-independence, which responded to the social changes following World War I, with Britain becoming more democratic following the end of World War I, with women gaining the vote and the assurance that the self-governing dominions would remain loyal to Britain, which caused people to believe that Indians should have these rights too. Another factor which can be added in this case is the view towards independence among the Indian population, which was fiercely pro, with both educated elites and the mass populace led by Gandhi wanting self-governance. The British political opinion had been initially mixed, supported by the introduction of the repressive Rowlatt Acts, which allowed imprisonment without trial, and the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which gave local people a greater say in local government in the same year, 1919. However, by the 1930s, mainstream British political opinion was pro-independence, with Britain announcing its intention of greater self-government in 1933, paving the way for the Government of India Act 1935, taking effect in 1937. This political opinion was not only in response to the wishes of the Indian populace, but also due to the increasing economic implication of maintaining the status quo. In complete opposition to this, Churchill was anti-Indian self-governance, believing India to be the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, and that it should be maintained at all costs. Churchill also believed in the advantages of British rule to India, thinking that it alone prevented the domination of Hindu elites over the large majority of Muslims, and that British rule was the only way to ensure economic and social progress in India. Churchill also called on the racial superiority of Anglo-Saxons to justify his opposition, but all of these reasons seemed fueled by prejudice. Churchill's views seemed outdated and out of touch with both public and political opinion, and instead of providing the stability that Britain needed, Churchill was increasingly associated with extremists, such as the Indian Empire Society. Churchill's views towards Indian independence support the case outlined at the start of this video that Churchill was out of office due to his political isolation from the moderates in government, his negative public image, and his inability to provide stability during a time of economic uncertainty for Britain. It is important to note, however, that Churchill eventually came more in line with moderate view with the passing of the Government of India Act 1935, saying, "Make the reforms a success." In order to understand the constitutional implications of the abdication crisis, we must understand the event that took place to cause this event, before assessing why this impacted Churchill's time out of office. Edward VIII was known as a playboy, but that was something that was expected to be ironed out before he took the throne. He was also known for political interference and was suspected of being an admirer of Nazi Germany. However, his behaviour didn't lead directly to a constitutional crisis. Instead, his attachment to Wallis Simpson, a married and once divorced woman, led to the crisis to come. After the death of his father, Edward VIII became King of England and declared intention to marry Simpson. As the King of England, Edward was expected to uphold the values of the Church of England, therefore opposing divorce, and that is what led to the crisis. Both political and public opinion opposed the marriage, with Baldwin, the Prime Minister, suggesting that public opinion would not accept Simpson as their queen. And despite the King's proposal of a morganatic marriage, where Simpson would be consort, not queen, political opinion remained opposed, with the Cabinet refusing to agree to the measure, as it would require the consent of the Dominions, who they feared would break away. In complete opposition yet again, Churchill supported Edward's choice and became a member of the informal group the King's Friends. The King's Friends supported the monarchy, citing the principles of loyalty and chivalry. Churchill's political isolation in this case is exemplified by his misjudgment of the mood of the House of Commons. He made a speech in favour of the King, only to be shouted down. After the refusal of Cabinet to agree to a morganatic marriage, Edward VIII was forced to abdicate. Yet Churchill remained in the wilderness for the remainder of the decade. To conclude, Churchill remained in the political wilderness from 1929 to 1939 due to his out-of-touch political views, negative public image, and his inability to provide an image of stability, which was needed in government.